So I'm Jonathan Masters, standing here at Spalding University on the 3rd floor, and this is the education school. So I'm at teacher education right now. I'm working on getting my Master's of Arts in Teaching, and this is something that I've never done. In education class, they have never, they'll give us 1 or 2 projects and we'll have, just 10 minutes to get up there and be able to hold the floor and get everybody's attention, but they put as much pressure on you. They'll get up there and they'll talk forever. I had one professor that would filibuster and just be like, so, are there any questions? And basically say the exact same rigmarole like every 5 minutes. And once he got all the power, once he had the floor, then he would say, okay, now Josephine, get up here and, wow everybody, right? And so then they got to get up here, like, as a teacher, I got the grades. You're going to have to listen to me whether you like it or not, right? And you give me a benefit of doubt since I'm, employed. I got the classroom, so evidently I must have something going on. It's real frustrating. Education so far, 31 years old, has been really frustrating for me. There's a professor downstairs actually right now talking, and one of the very first things I quoted to her was Tupac. Not Tupac, Coolio. There's Gangsta's Paradise, and there's a lyric in the Gangsta's Paradise that says, something about how you going to teach me when you can't even reach me, how you going to teach me when you can't even reach me. I forget the exact lyric, but how you going to teach me when you can't even reach me? You don't know me. You don't know. And then there's this other book, she's like, well, do you know enough about me to teach me? It has nothing to do about knowing me, okay? It has to do with, if I walk outside here and I get run over by a bus, I know nobody's going to lose one crocodile tear over me. And since you don't give a fuck about my life, why do I give a fuck about what you're telling me? Here at education class, I want either knowledge or I want networks. I want to be able to network with people so I get a better job. Or I want the knowledge that I can get in order to go forward in this world and do something with myself. Now the problem is, there's a ton of problems actually, but one of the major problems is the hierarchy of education. The hierarchy of education. There's I was watching this gentleman at camp counselor at a camp. He was a camp counselor, but I was watching him, be a leader, so-called leader. He'd wear sunglasses like a cop and just an authority figure who didn't give a crap about anybody else. And there's 2 kids who were talking to each other, and when they were talking to each other, immediately he goes over there by him, he goes, I'll have to separate you 2. I was talking to one gentleman actually here in class, or one lady, I was talking to her, and the thing I told her is that hierarchy destroys relationships, and that's powerful, and it makes sense too. If these 2 kids are talking, and I go over there and I say, I'm going to separate you 2, well, the authority just separated their friendship. They just separated that relationship. And whether that relationship had a good, strong hold or not, if they had not talked to each other, that was the first thing to talk to each other, they're not going to get along. They're not going to talk to each other. That person will be standing over there, that person will be standing over there, and you just, you divide and conquer, which is what the elite, the owners, the Republicans do, divide and conquer. And that's what the classroom management, that's all they teach you in classroom management. The problem with classroom management is it goes against the idea of education being for liberation. If I'm just managing because I want to be heard, so I'm not going to allow these 2 people to whisper, and they could have been whispering quietly to where no one else heard them, and they're building a relationship, and they could have been talking about the subject material, which is exactly what you want. I'm going to be teaching U.S. history. If those 2 people are talking about the War of 1812, if that's what those 2 individuals are talking about, then I have won. In their own lives, you got students talking about the War of 1812. You got people talking about the Revolutionary War and other events that have happened throughout history. That's a successful teacher. So a big problem, I drew a triangle here, is lectures. How much do you actually learn from somebody lecturing at you? I read this one quote, Isaac Asimov, a science fiction author, and he said that all education is self-education, and I get that. I understand that. When I'm ready to learn something, I'm watching a how to do it type of video, or I'm reading the manual, and even with my classes here, they'll lecture at us and they'll squawk at us and be like, hey, I'm important, look at me, I'm talking loud and I'm talking to you like you're stupid. One teacher here actually calls us all children. Okay, children, get out your little projects now, children. I mean, what kind of bullshit is that? Kids? And that same person is also like, don't call me Miss, you know, whatever her name is. And I'm not going to talk about specific individual people because I think the theory is more important than, you know, any name calling or any type of bashing. So this professor wants us to address her a specific way, but she don't care about how we're addressed. You're just a bunch of stupid fucking kids. You're a bunch of little children. And your projects are little projects. Well, I'm sorry. Whenever I work on a project, I feel like I'm writing a manifesto. I feel like I'm writing a communist manifesto. Or I'm writing a novel that's going to go, it's going to make a ton of money. I put a lot of effort and work into my work. I put a lot of effort into my work, and I would like for somebody to appreciate that effort. Even actually just the whole classroom setting, like right now, like I'm talking, to a camera, but there'd be no different if I was a professor and there's 30 people here and 0 people. It would be the same. Like in traditional education, you would just hear me talk on and on and on. Now, if that's what education actually is, how come the free education at Harvard courses or if education is so important, why don't we meet up and actually talk about the ideas? And when we do meet up and talk about the ideas, how come it's not just one asshole, one dictator, and the rest of the dumb masses? Whenever you talk about ideas, it's more discussion based, and you talk about people that have similar interests as you and that you can relate to on some level. So there's this learning pyramid. I forget the exact detail where it came from. I think it came out in the 60s or 70s by some institute, but it's brilliant. Brilliant. There's like 5 or 6 levels, and the top level is 5%. And the 5%, this is the learning pyramid talks about how much retention of knowledge actually stays in your head. So I'm lecturing, I'm squawking at you, and I'm talking about the War of 1812, and I'm talking about how Tecumseh got shot, and how the White House was burned down, how the War of 1812 was a pointless and stupid war of imperialistic aggression. Which it was only really instituted just to get, save face and show respect, get some respect out of the European power, so a lot of innocent blood had to be spilled. So that's the War of 1812. Now, I'll lecture that, and I just told you that, but you're going to retain it. I picked out some pretty good information. The White House was burned down. Tecumseh, one of the greatest Indian leaders, was killed at the Battle of Thames. And all this knowledge I acquired on my own. So go back to the Isaac Asimov. The only education is self-education. So I learned it, and that's why I know about it, and now that I'm lecturing it to you, there's only a 5% chance of that actually retaining in your brain. Only 5%. So lecturing is the very worst way of how to teach somebody. Now the next one was reading. And then there was another one that was teaching others. Then there was observation, or demonstrations. Let's see, there's discussion. Teaching others, demonstrations. I haven't got this memorized, but I got the vague idea. Basically, learning pyramid shows that our entire American education system is bullshit. It's horseshit. I'm a pretty thoughtful person, okay? When I look at a room, I'm a political science major, so I look at the power structure and the power arrangement in a classroom. And it's so clear to me. The man or the woman in front is the dictator. And you the dumb peasants, you the dumb masses, and that's all we've ever seen. That's what we've seen in the classroom, it's what we see in the workplace, it's what we see in our political leadership. We will talk about freedom and democracy. I have never seen democracy in America. There is not democracy. Even our voting system has less than the majority voting. So even our voting system isn't democratic. But democracy is working people, regular folks, getting together, discussing the ideas that's confronting with them, and then figuring out a way in order to get past it, to make decisions based on the group, and then to act upon those decisions. That's democracy. That is nothing we have. They want to talk about how JCPS here in Louisville, only 40% of the kids are graduating high school here at JCPS in Louisville. 40%. 60% are not graduating. The majority of Louisvillians do not graduate high school. They don't go, they don't see a point to it, and they just say fuck school. And then, you know, the elites don't see a college degree, they don't get a good job, and then they're just, you know, basically condemned to a life on the streets. That's 40% are graduating in Louisville, and 2 out of 5 Kentuckians can't even read. So, you know, I guess that's a more positive thing, since 60% can read, but those that number, that same 60%, not the same 60%, but the same number, don't graduate. So that is academic genocide. Terry Holliday is absolutely right about that. But it goes back to, you know, education. What are we doing here? So, yeah, again, I'm a political person, so when we arrange ourselves, what is the best way to arrange ourselves? What's the best way to arrange ourselves democratically? I want to be able to have a say-so in my curriculum. I want to be able to speak about, you know, what it is I'm going to study and what I'm going to learn. But these classes are just so unnatural. So, Sugata Mitra showed that when you just put a computer around a bunch of poor kids, they start talking, they start figuring, they start collaborating, and then they're computer literate within a week. And that shows that education is a self-emergent, self-organizing phenomenon. The only thing a teacher can do is fuck that up. Just put a laptop in a room and walk out the room, then you're a success. The kids will get around, they'll learn, they'll get emails, they'll get Facebook, they'll take pictures, they'll play different games, and, you know, they'll have a good time doing that. So that's you know, that shows. I got a class that I'm taking right now, and the class I'm taking is about technology. We have lots of computers, and we're talking about all the different social media and all the ways that we can discuss and talk to each other. We even have to do a discussion board, which is required. You must post on the discussion board. The conversations are so fake, they're so cheesy, they're so basically, the dictator comes in, I'm the boss, I'm the one that does all the talking, don't talk amongst yourselves, don't actually talk to me, I'm not going to be your friend. And they all say that too. Don't be friends with, you know, your students, you know, on Facebook. And which is exactly goes to my point. If I get hit by a bus, I know that you don't give a shit. I know you don't care. I just came in here, I listened to your stupid horse shit, and I just ran and got hit by a bus. You don't give a fuck. If I was homeless and needed a place to stay, you wouldn't offer me a place to stay. If I was hungry, if I needed a ride, I mean, there's so many things. You know, why should I give a fuck about somebody that don't give a shit about me? Now, maybe if I'm in a more safe economic spot, that stuff wouldn't bother me as much. But since I'm out here on a limb, on a ledge, you know, it's just me out here. I'm just hanging on by a thread. It's ridiculous. It's ridiculous that I have to sit in a class and all I feel is that they're imposing their will, they're imposing their power, they're establishing their authority, they're making sure none of us are talking to each other, so we're not getting the networking that we need, we're not building any contacts, and next we have this really unnatural social situation where the hierarchy destroys any type of you know, generative or creative type of language that we would use. And being in graduate school, we're all serious here, so we actually want to get something out of this. Again, you know, you could just take a bunch of unruly kids and put a laptop, and maybe they'll learn and maybe they won't. But with adults, you know, with adults, we're not even taking our adults serious, we're calling our adults children. This is ridiculous. The learning pyramid shows that 5% of lectures are retained. Only 5% of lectures are retained. So me just sitting there lecturing, you'll watch this video, maybe you'll learn something from it, maybe you won't. The learning pyramid says you're going to only retain 5%. Now when you go out, there's the other ones are 10% is reading. If you read it, you retain 10% of it. Then there's discussing it, and then there's demonstrating your knowledge, and then the very bottom one is teaching others. So when you can actually get up and teach others, that's when you know that you know the material, and you have to really know your content in order to get up and teach people. So right now, me teaching, me giving this demonstration with, you know, I'm in a room by myself, but me giving this demonstration, I am learning a bunch. I'm learning how to stand up in front of a classroom and speak, which the School of Education has not taught me. And I don't know, most people or most education systems are set up this way. So this is the first time, not the first time, a couple classes I have got up and had to speak, but there's just so much pressure on you. These, you know, these Nazi fascists, all they want to do is classroom manage you. And when they managing you, then they ain't actually caring about you. Paulo Freire says, sadistic love